corner, and I am putting in a lot of the back stitching there. And I'm almost finished with the back stitching in that corner. As you can see, I stopped right there. It was midnight last night. I was like, okay, I gotta stop. So I just gotta finish a little back stitching here. And there's a little flower here. And there's another flower here, I think. And then this peacock has back stitching because it connects these little dots here to his head. And then it connects his tail, these dots, to his tail. So then it'll be, there's what the other peacock looks like. So it'll look like that when you're finished. And I am using regular DMC floss for the back stitching. When did I do the floss? Oh, here it is. If it had been a snake, it would have bit me. And this is DMC 898. And I wanted something that was going to stand out against that red. And the red is Sulky. And it is number 42. It's a blendable. And it's called Redwork. And it's reds, and every so often a splotch, I guess that's the word, a splotch of purple. So it gives it kind of an antique-y look to it. But that's where I'm at right now. I work from the bottom up. So I'm trying to get the bottom, I think it's 5 pages, the bottom 5 pages done. And I'm almost done that. I mean, the top of the pages is like right here. So I just have to come in and fill in a little bit. But this section right here is a lot of stitching. And I'm like, ugh, I got to do that next. So that way I can get, because this line right here, that's the top of page 20. So once I fill in that little section there, I think it's right here. This bird is the break. So right here, this little, and there's not a whole bunch of stitching. It's some zigzag lines off of these. I'll be finished with page 20. I am, because I use Pattern Keeper on this one, I am at 26% done. My goal was to have 25% done back at New Year's. That didn't happen. So I'm happy that I'm beyond a quarter of the way done with it. So yay! I don't know how many of y'all use Pattern Keeper. Pandemic has backstitching, has a lot of backstitching, as you saw. Pattern Keeper does not always pick up the backstitching. So I do have a paper copy with me. And so what I do is I'll use the paper copy to stitch. And then at the end of the day, I'll go through and mark all my stitching on my Pattern Keeper so that I can keep up where my stitches are at. But it doesn't show the backstitching. And I know there were some people that just didn't do the backstitching. But I think backstitching accentuates a pattern. It draws your eye into a specific section. It's this, like this part here. These little dots, which are little areas, are supposed to look like these. This is just blasé, because now it's just some empty holes. But when you add in that back stitching, look what it does. It finishes it off. It gives it some flurry to it. I mean, yes, it takes a little bit to do back stitching, but if it calls for back stitching, I never leave it out. Just because it just pulls out the stitching so much more. And a lot of times, depending on the pattern, excuse me, I didn't mean to get in your face there. A lot of times a pattern that has back stitching, it's small enough that I can do everything and then go back and do the back stitching. Pandemic is big enough that I'm doing it as I'm doing the page, because there'd be no way I would remember what pages had what. And I just don't want to do that, because if I did all the stitching and then had to go back to the back stitching, it would just depress me and I probably would never finish. I like to do Vickery collection patterns. And I know the gentleman who designed that passed away a couple of years ago. And his patterns were miles of backstitching. I love them. And I did one and I went, oh God, I'm never doing another one of these. I mean, this backstitching was killer. So what do? I've done 2 more. So, and I have several more of his patterns. I just wish, he could have maybe had a few more before he passed away. But he was a rather prolific designer, so you can still find them available. I don't know if his family has stopped printing them or what. I just do know you can still find some of them. The next thing I worked on, and I'm woefully behind, I did work on my modern folk embroidery, and I had planned to have March, April, and May done before June started, and that's not going to happen. I am still working on March, but I at least now have the bottom of the vase done, and it's all a big flower and stuff. So technically, I guess you could say I have started July, because this section here is done in July. But yes, so I am still working on March. I'm plugging away on it. It and pandemic both just kind of fell to the wayside, and I need to get back on them. I have a stitch camp in July I'm going to, and I think that when I go to stitch camp, rather than take great gobs of patterns like projects like I usually do, I think I may just take those 2. And it may be I'm going to work on these 2, period, and not get crazy and do other things. But doing other things means buying more stuff, or actually going through my whips. And my thought was this year to work on 1 whip each month. Pull it out, give it a day or 2 of love, and then put it back. This is May. I still have not done that. And I really keep telling myself, when I go into my stitching room or craft room, because it's not really a stitching room because the lighting in there is bad. It's more of my black hole of stitching. I'll walk in there and I'll look at my stuff and I'm like, I don't want to stitch on that. I don't want to stitch on that. I don't want to stitch on that. And it's like, and then I close the door and continue on and stitch something else. I have stitching, a box over here with project bags with stitching, those were going to be my focus points for 2021. I think the only thing that I've pulled out of there was modern folk embroidery. Yes, only modern folk embroidery. Everything else is still sitting there. I've got a box. I have more than one box. I have 1 box in my middle bedroom, which is where I keep all my stuff, that it is project bags, neatly labeled and everything, and ready to go. Haven't touched any. Well, I can't say that. I did pull out Legal High not too long ago, and I did do a little bit, but I just wanted to finish off 1 little corner, so I haven't pulled it out again. That's also a long dog sampler pattern called Legal High. If you haven't seen that one, it's gorgeous. You need to look it up. But anyway, back to what I am working on. Let me rephrase it. What I tried to start on. Back in February, I did a video, and I was showing you this fabric. And this is called 28 Count Moss. I have no idea who made it. I went to a cross-stitch store. I went to the Tinsmith's Wife in Comfort, Texas. And she said she thought it's a Picture This Plus piece. I love this fabric. It's just gorgeous. And then I was going to use this thread on it because, let's see if I can get it. It's got the greens and the golds, and I thought that would just be stunning. The pattern that I had for this, though, once I got it all selected and everything, because the fabric I bought on an auction, so it wasn't like I could go and have it cut specifically. It was just something somebody donated to an auction. I found the floss and I said, oh wow, that fabric I'm getting at the auction, it will match that perfectly. And then I found this on the giveaway table where people don't want them anymore. This beautiful pattern by Four Oaks Designs. And I understand, I don't think this is an actual company anymore. And I have seen this on the Mischievous Stitchers, or a Four Oaks Designs from Mischievous Stitchers, oh, that's hard to say, on Flosstube. And when I saw this one, I said, oh, I could do one. And this was done in red. It was like, but I've got Pandemic in red. I don't want another red sampler. And I thought, I can use that green and the gold. Got this all together and realized the fabric I bought was too skinny. It was 18 inches and I needed 26. I needed a fat half to do this because it's a perfect square. So I needed something that was going to be at least 26 by 26 on a 28 count to have margins to do it all up. Anyway, I went to Tinsmith's wife and I took that fabric in. And I showed it to her and I said, do you know what this is? And stuff like that. And she says, I think it's Picture This Plus. And she looked it up and we think that's what it is. Well, she didn't have moss, but she had this one. This is called Swamp. And I laughed. I said swamp and moss. Excuse me, cat hair. I seem to be on a theme for green. Once again, those two look awesome together. And that's pretty true to the color of the fabric and floss. So, I mean, I was like, yes, I can start the Four Oaks Designs pattern. Way to go. Well, I did. And I stitched, and I was on the Zoom meetings. That means I wasn't stitching very fast. And so I got done to a certain part, and I kind of looked back. Which way does this go? This way. And I realized that thread is too difficult to see on this. I thought I was stitching a leaf. That's not a leaf. And it's the bottom of the corner, so it's upside down. But when you look at it this way, it's a bird. But I don't care for how it's striping with the brown, and the green is almost too close of a color on the swamp. And I can tell you this looks much better on the video than it does in person. In person, you can't even tell that that's a bird. I mean, no. And, you know, I don't want to have to look through a video the rest of my life. So I have decided I still want to do that pattern. I'm going to fall back and punt, as they would say, and find another piece of fabric, probably not a green, and not this particular sulky thread. It's still a beautiful thread, and I'm thinking it would look great in a sampler that's like a big alphabet or something, but something that's going to be very floral, flowery, and birds and all that stuff. I don't think this is going to work. So I have decided to toss that aside, and I'll pick that at a later date. Well, since I had the piece of fabric that was called Swamp with me, the one that was too small, I thought, I wonder if there's anything else here that I can find that I could use on that. So I've been seeing this all over Flosstube, and people have been buying it. She had a copy of the Souvenirs of Summer by Blackbird Designs. Now, I'm not doing this on that fabric, but I do love this little bird. He's not very big, so I do think I'll do him on a piece of a small fabric someplace. What I do want to do is this, and I know this is very popular right now, but what perturbed me was I bought this chart because I went, oh, there's that pattern that everybody's doing. I love it. And I'm thinking to myself, yay, I had the pattern. You know, it wasn't sold out before I got to it, because I know a lot of people say it's already sold out where they're at and things. In reading the instruction page, it is a reprint from August of 2003, Just Cross Stitch magazine. Now, I have not gone and looked, but I probably have that magazine. And I was like, oh man, I had the pattern all along. And I have to admit, every so often, I used to pull all my magazines out. Excuse me. I would pull all my magazines out, drag them into the living room. I would sit on the floor. I would dump them out on, because they were magazine holders. Dump them out onto the floor, each holder out onto the floor one at a time. And I'd go through them. And I would regroup them. And I would sometimes put them all in date order, and then sometimes I'd go through and say, okay, these were all the spring ones, these were all the fall ones, these had Halloween patterns, and I would get crazy and do all that. I haven't done that in several years, namely because if I sit on the floor now, I can't get up. So it's like, oh man, I probably have that pattern. So, but anyway, now I have the little book and I have the little bird on the front. So I can do that. So it wasn't a complete loss of money. Oh, and then I did buy, where did that go? This is one of those days where if my head wasn't attached, I would probably lose it. I did buy the floss to go with it. So I did buy almost all the called for colors. The only reason I say almost is because they did not have a couple of the colors, so I had to substitute. Let me pull it this way. But I'm going to do it on the green instead of on that dark brown or black or grayish color, whatever they call it. And I think those colors will show up nicely on this green. And this green does have a little bit of a yellow overtone. So it does complement, especially like here. The alphabet is just a skinny alphabet. It's not, multiple stitches per letter. It's a single stitch around for the letters. And they did not have the called for color in an overdyed. And I said, it's not like you're going to be able to see a lot of the color changes in an overdyed anywhere. So I just got the DMC substitute that's listed in the back of the book for the letters. So that is going to be for the pattern. I don't even know what the name of the pattern is. It is called, it's the first pattern in the book. And I thought it was so funny because I was showing somebody and they said, I think that's page 6. And I went, yeah, it is. So obviously they're stitching on it too. It's called Summer Jubilee. So I'll be stitching this, that on this. So those will go together. And I haven't started it. I just, I need to make a project bag first because, as I said, I'm getting floss and fabric and patterns and they're getting mixed up together. And I'm like, I don't know what goes to what. So I have to kind of fix all that so I don't get all these things crazy. When I was at Tinsmith's Wife, one of the things I bought, and I had bought one before, but it's not like this one. This is a wooden embroidery hoop from Access Commodities. It is 7/8 of an inch. It's almost an inch across. It is awesome. It's not as heavy as a Q-snap because sometimes those Q-snaps, after a while, they get very heavy in your hand. It's not as heavy as a Q-snap. It's sturdy, and I have trouble holding the little skinny hoops because they're so lightweight, plus they give me splinters on occasion, that I accidentally have tossed them across the room on occasion just because it flips out of my hand because there's nothing to really hold on to because they're so skinny. This is almost an inch thick. I can hold onto this. It's like holding onto a Q-snap, but because it's not so wide as a Q-snap, the little round tubes, this is not bothering my hands, and I have arthritis in my hands. I held this for 6 hours the other day working on my pandemic. The end of the time, my hands didn't hurt, and I was just like, oh my god. Now they do suggest, Access Commodities suggest, wrapping the inner piece with twill tape to keep it from slipping because it does have just a little bit of slippage. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to find twill tape. So it's like, really guys? I used to see twill tape all the time. My mother and grandmother used to use it all the time. Can I find it? No. So I did see you could order it like from Joann Fabrics, but I'm like, I don't want to order this. So this is awesome. Now I have to admit, this hoop is $17 at a cross stitch store. But if you have any kind of issues with your hands, or you like using a hoop, but you have the same issues with me, that those new little hoops they're not well made. The fabric continually slips, and I'm getting splinters from the little wooden hoops from Joann Fabrics and Michaels. These are awesome. I don't like the plastic hoops. I've got 2, and one of them's got sharp edges, and it cuts into my hand. And the other one, it's something, I don't remember how the screw works, but I'm continually catching my thread on it because of the way it's made. And this one, because I have it wrapped, and then I have my magnets, you know, holding my fabric together on it like that, which I didn't put on there. The fabric, once I do that, it covers that up, so I'm not having that issue. So this worked out very well. They did have different sizes. I mean, I think they had a smaller one, and I know they had bigger ones. But as I said, this is from Access Commodities. If you go to their website, they do not sell directly, but you can order. It tells you where you can order their goods from. I love their linen. Their linen is spectacular. So now they've got these hoops, and I'm in love with these hoops. And this screw here is a nice big brass screw. I mean, this is thick brass. So this is not going to bend. It's not going to tear out. I've had them where I was screwing them down and realized the little post here were bending. The hoop wasn't tightening, just the posts were bending. So, I mean, yes, I love this. And I have two. The other one's 5/8 of an inch, but this one is 7/8 of an inch. So I recommend, I have nothing to do with Access Commodities, but I do recommend this. So just a moment, because I want to switch around and do something else. Okay, I'm back. I want to show you this. It's my Sulky webinar kit. I watched Amanda May from Artist Design present her new pattern. She works with Sulky, and so they asked her to do a webinar, and I watched most of it, because a lot of it I know how to cross stitch. So I mean, some of it was, you know, this is how you do this and this. I didn't need that part, but there's some new floss in here, or fibers, I guess you would call it. Some new fibers in here that I haven't worked with before, and I wanted to see. So this was the kit she sent. Let me show you the pattern. And the pattern, you could either buy the pattern separate, or you could get the pattern and the kit. And I bought the kit with the pattern, so I had it all. I love buffalo, and when I saw that, I was like, yes. Now this is little pieces of fabric that she's made into like buntings, so the pattern goes from there up. But yes, I love this buffalo, and I have not started him yet. I have been waiting to do this video before I start him. Plus, as I said, I haven't been in the mood to stitch great amounts, and I'm focused right now on pandemic, and so I haven't started him. Anyway, this is the little box I got in the mail. It came within another box, so I mean, this box was nice and neat. So I'm going to make a project bag for him. It's from Sulky. So, and this is called, this says Patriotic Bison, but the actual kit is under Americana. So if you're looking for him, you have to look for Americana under Sulky. And at this moment, I think you can only get the pattern on Sulky. So, cover that up. You get this little card, and it gives you the link for the pattern, which I've covered since I bought it. Then you get the fabric that it's done on, and this is some 16 count Aida, and this is Cafe Mocha. I'm not real impressed with this color, because I mean, if you look at this, this looks more cream than that. I may use it, I don't know, I haven't decided yet. But I mean, it's got the 16 count Cafe Mocha. And I know she uses a lot of Aida in her patterns. And I'm not so much of a big Aida pat stitcher, so I may change that out. I haven't decided. But when you buy the kit, this is what you get. And this was like, woo. And the reason I said there was new floss in here excuse me, that I had never stitched with before. Let's see if I can pull it out. Which one is it? There it is. Most of this is 12 weight floss. But these two skeins, which are, well, I know one is this one is the stars. It's sparkly. You can see I got my window open to the side there, and so you can see the sparkles in that. And then the blue one. And I think, I don't know where the blue goes to. But anyway, those two are sparkly. And I've used Petite Treasure Braid, and I've used the DMCs. So I'm interested to see how the sulky sparkly floss works. So those were interesting to me. And in this, this is called Filane, and it's also a 12 weight. And when you look at the buffalo, his head looks like it's just brown, because you really can't see it. Even on the website and stuff, if you look on your computer and you can blow up his head, you can see it a little bit. This is called Filane, and I don't know if you can see. Let's see, get it to focus. There you go. It looks like it's just brown, but when you stitch with it, it has a bit of fuzz to it. So when you're finished stitching, you're supposed to take a very soft toothbrush and go over it. And it makes his head fuzzy. It's like, yay. And I don't know if you've ever seen a buffalo, but he's got a very fuzzy head. So I thought that was just fascinating. And I'm interested to see how this works. Let's see if I can. So that is what it looks like. You really can't see the fuzz. In person, just sitting here looking at it, I can tell that it's not a smooth floss. I can tell that it's got that, you know, it looks like some floss that has been roughed up a little bit. But you can definitely tell it's got some texture to it. So I'm really looking forward to using the Filane, which is a 12 weight. These little glossy things, these are, oh, let's see, does it say what kind of weight they are? No, it just says they're poly sparkle. But yes, so it had 3 specialty rolls in there, and I'm really looking forward to using those. And then, of course, the regular 12 weight, 12 weight blendables. Well, this is a blendable. The others are solids, but that one is a blendable. The eagle on the top is done with the blendable, and that is 4011 on that blendable. And I think I may actually already have a spool of that. In fact, I probably have most of these already, but I wanted the kit. You know, sometimes it's just easier to work with the kit, and then you don't have to deal with having to, oh, I didn't get that one after all, and stuff like that. So I love that so far. Then also in the kit, got a whole package of needles, which I was like, oh good, because I probably needed needles. So these are Bowen. I actually love Bowen needles. So I was very pleased. I have less trouble using these than I do the John James. I have purchased the Pat's needles once. They were a bit pricey for me, but I bought them because everybody swore how much they loved them. Yes, they were awesome, but I don't want to spend that much for that few needles. People tell me, oh, just buy the big pack online. And I'm like, no, I don't need it. And then as a free gift, and I'm not exactly sure what I would do with it, namely because I don't do this kind of stuff anymore, but I got a free marking pencil with a little, I guess that's the eraser to knock the marking off your fabric and stuff. But it's just a white marking pencil. And it says, oh, so better with Sulky. But I wanted to show y'all that because I was definitely excited about starting this. I just threw the needles on the floor. one day, one day I hope to be able to have a better space to do all this in, and I just have not at this moment. I do have a freebie pattern that I was going to stitch, but there's no picture of it. So I will stitch it and then show it to you after I'm stitched. But it's a little patriotic. In fact, since today's the 26th, I ought to put my start putting out my patriotic stuff. I don't have a lot, but I do have some. I don't know if y'all remember last year I made a little pincushion type pillow that is not stuffed with walnut shells like they talk about. It is stuffed with pinto beans because I am in South Texas. And the pinto beans weighted it enough that it stands up and I can stick it on a shelf. I don't have a dough bowl. I don't have a 3-tiered stand, namely because both of them, if I had a dough bowl on my table, the cat would sleep in it. And then if I had a 3-tiered stand, it would be full of junk and never be able to see any of the pretty things that I would put into it. So it's like, okay, I thought about getting one. But then I have, as I said before, I have a small house. I have no idea where I would display it at because I don't have any, there's no more top areas to put something like a 3-tiered tray. And the dough bowl could fit on my dining room table, but I'm looking at my dining room table right now and it's got mail and it's got the box with all the trailer paperwork in it when we were going through the insurance to get that taken care of. We were lucky. The insurance totaled out the trailer and paid it off for us, and there was even a little extra for us. So I don't know if we're going to get another trailer anytime soon, but right now we're kind of holding it on for that. And it's got games and all kinds of stuff. So, I mean, I need to go clean off my dining room table. What's really bad is it's got games on it, and we haven't played any games. I was cleaning the other day, and I was cleaning underneath the china cabinet. It doesn't sit flat on the floor. It's got some lathed legs, so it's got the decorative legs that lift it up high. So I keep picture boxes under there. And because they're pretty, you know, flowers and stuff, so it gives it a little color underneath the china cabinet. And I was looking under there because we had to move it because we're painting, and I still haven't got into this room. I have stopped. When we emptied out the trailer, everything is in my garage, including a large mattress, and I can't get to my paint stuff now. But I had to move the china cabinet to paint the wall behind it. And I was moving out my picture boxes, and I went, what are these games? And pulled them out, and I was like, where did these games come from? So when my son came to visit a couple of weeks ago, and I asked him, I said, did you bring these games? And he goes, oh yeah, so we could play them. And I'm like, when did you bring these games? I don't even remember seeing these games. So I don't know how long they've been down there. I mean, it's not a place that I go and mess with very often. It's got photos, you know, from the 90s. And no one wants to look at those right now. So they're just sitting there. So the pretty boxes just sit there and gather dust. And every so often I knock the spider webs and dust off of them and put them back. And that's it. I had not even noticed there were games down there. So one day we'll have to play one of them, I guess, see what it even is. The only other thing I wanted to show you is I said I was going to make some project bags. I bought some linings. I do like blue, so I bought some linings. But this is going to be one that's got a fabric for the outside. And I got this at Walmart because people have asked me before, where do I get my fabrics? I saw this at Walmart. I thought this was so cute. I love it. So I'm going to make some project bags. I can get 2 project bags at least out of this once I get going on it. When I make a project bag, mine zip from the top. I don't like the ones, as I said, I don't like the ones where the zipper's down here because it's hard to get especially if you're using Q-snaps, they're too tall sometimes for the part up here. So I like my zippers from the top. Of course, this one I never completely finished, so this one it was kind of hot off the press, and I threw a project in it and never finished it off. But it's been used now for quite some time. When I start, I start with a piece of fabric, especially if I start cutting it out. So this is the back. So this part here should be 15 inches. I think this bag is bigger just because I wanted as much of this fabric showing as possible because I had one piece of it. So this should be 15 and this is 18 across. And that's what a size of a fabric I start off with. Then this piece here is either 3 to 4 inches before I sew it. So this one I think maybe even a little taller just because I used my sewing machine and embroidered cross stitcher on it. So this is one of my first, this may be, I think this is my, no, this is not my first bag. This is the first bag of this style. The other bags I made had the plastic front, and I'm not really fond of them. After I made them, I was like, okay, fine. And I know people say that they don't like these because they can't see what's in them. But I know this is my bag for pandemic. I mean, it's just, it is. And I guess technically I could embroider up here what the bag is, and then as I finish it and go to another project, I could put it down, embroider another line. That may be something I decide to do for the future. I haven't finished anything yet that's any of these bags. And of course I put a little fobby thing on it. It's a little flower or butterfly. It was just something I had. So since then I have gone and found fobs that you could embroider on, do cross stitch on. I have put the little silver scissors on. I made some bags earlier this year that had flamingos, so I went and found flamingo charms. So that was a pain in the butt. They kept being sold out, and I was like, I want the flamingo charms. So I finally got them. Anyway, when I start a bag, the fabric starts out 15 by 18 at the biggest size. And then, of course, you got your seams and everything, so it ends up being more like 17 by 14, which is a good size bag to hold everything. And I use padded, I don't use hard fiberfill. I use iron-on fusible padding that, let's see if I can, as I said, I haven't finished this one. You may be able to see it here. Let's see, yes. This is fusible stuff. Of course, over time, it does come unsewed, unironed. And so it's thick enough that it gives it some body. So it's not just laying limply on the ground someplace. I have seen a couple of people who had some that they never had them lined. And I'm like, how do you keep it from standing up? So when I go to my boxes, they have enough oomph to them that they'll stand up in my box like this, and I can have everything in here. So now I have to admit, pandemic is in a let me show you. I have my pandemic in a plastic, what do you call it, file holder that I got at Office Depot, I think. And then I put the pattern in the sleeves. I didn't want to show the pattern. So this one, maybe I got it from Walmart, because I have to admit, when I got it all put together, this particular part here is bigger than the pages. It's like, great. But I think it's because they wanted you to hole punch the pages, and I don't want to hole punch my pages. I want to put them in here because I want to be able to pull them out, and I want to be able to mangle them as necessary. Sometimes when I'm finished with the pattern, it's mangled. This was a freebie for 2 weeks last year, back in June of last year, I think, because I started it right as it came out. Did I write the date on it? No. So, I mean, I started it just as it came out, and I've been working on it basically, I think in July or the end of June will be a full year working on it, and I'm only a quarter of the way done. But that's pretty good, because it took me 3 years to do Death by Cross Stitch. So, so I'm moving along, so to speak. Anyway, so when I have this, and I put it in here, this also helps hold it up. And most of my patterns are in something like this, or a half-inch 3-ring binder. That way I can keep all the pages together. They're kept neatly. And if it's a pattern that's multiple pages, especially, then I will make a copy of those, and I'll put the original in the sleeve, and then put the copy on top of it. And then that way I have the original and it's kept neatly, and then I can just mark up the paper copy as I need to. Since pandemic was a download, it works. I don't have to print 2 copies of it. I have the 1 copy so I can see the back stitching, but then I have the other copy in Pattern Keeper, which I can mark off on Pattern Keeper. So that's how that works. But patterns that are older, they don't always work that way. They don't go into Pattern Keeper very well. I can tell you this, and I have tried, does not go into Pattern Keeper, because she gives you a color copy and a black and white copy, but the black and white copy has the back stitching that goes on top of the animals. That's in color, so you can see them. Then she also gives you 2 one-page copies of it that are either in color or black and white, and you can also print those out. The problem is, when you go to Pattern Keeper, it asks you how many columns, rows, whatever, is the overlap. And usually it's either 3 or 5, and occasionally a 2. This one is not done that way. This one, say, let me put my glasses on so I can see here. Say this is page 2, I think, the buffalo's rear. Okay, so you would think that you would have just 5 little columns here. No, it comes all the way up here to the buffalo's head. Then this page comes all the way over here to the buffalo's rear. So it's like 20 columns on each one. And then the bottom is doing some weird stuff too. So you can't put it in Pattern Keeper and tell it it's just 5 columns, because it's not consistent. That would be the only complaint I have with this if Amanda May ever watches. So yes, that is the problem with putting this into Pattern Keeper. And I tried to use the pages where she just gave it to you as a 1 page. And for some reason, I cannot get it to go in. It does not like it. And I think it's because the backstitching being in color makes it difficult for Pattern Keeper to read. I couldn't read it. I mean, it was difficult to read when I looked at it. I went, oh yeah, I can't do this. I'll just stick it in Pattern Keeper. Pattern Keeper doesn't like it either, so it would not go in. So this is definitely a print out a copy and stitch from the hard copy. But and she gives it to you in color. She gives it to you in black and white. She gives you the color chart in 2 different ways. I printed off just the color chart like this. The other one she gives you has got this, and then it's got all the instructions of what size to use and all that stuff. And I already knew all that, so I just needed this portion. And yes, so I'm looking forward to working on this. I've never done one of her patterns, so we'll see how that goes. But anyway, this video for me is getting longer than I intended. And I have a few odds and ends I have to do today. I guess for one, I have to clean off my dining room table. It's been very rainy here. It's gray today. I'm very tired of the rain. Sunday, when I was stitching on Zoom with some people, they were in Connecticut, and it was 88, 90 degrees in Connecticut, and San Antonio was at 74. This is just a weird spring for us. Spring does not usually last this long for us. Usually we have 2 weeks of spring around Easter, and then after that we're 90 degrees and 100 degrees. And I think today we may hit 80. I think when I looked last, it was still 78. And it is 12:30 in the afternoon here. And usually by 12:30 on May 26th, it's more like 85 and 90 degrees. So anyway, I think I'm going to log off here. I'm going to go join all my little pieces of video together. And then while that's happening, I'm going to go get something to eat. And then I'll be putting this on video in just a little bit. Or since you're watching this, it's on video. But y'all have a great day stitching. I hope you have many good hours this weekend of stitching and enjoy your Memorial Day. If you know a fallen soldier, stop and give a moment to think of them. My family has been very lucky. We have never lost a serviceman or woman in battle. In fact, they all either live long enough to retire or they get out before then, but we've never lost one in active duty. So I was very lucky and very blessed with that. No one in our family is a Gold Star mom or Gold Star family, which means you lost a service member. I was a Blue Star mom, but my son got out, so I kind of fell off the bandwagon with that. I guess when my grandson is old enough to join, I'll reconsider it. But anyway, I hope y'all have a great day stitching. Enjoy your weekend, and God bless you. Bye.